The Lord be with you. Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs. You may recognize the names of the two men who founded Apple Computer. How about the name Ronald G. Wayne? Do you recognize that name? Ronald G. Wayne was also one of the men who founded Apple Computer. On the original partnership agreement dated April 1, 1976, there are 3 signatures, not 2. The first is Stephen G. Wozniak. The second is Stephen P. Jobs. And the third is Ronald G. Wayne. Ronald Wayne was the third co-founder of Apple, with a 10% ownership stake. He wasn't an engineer, but he held a significant role. He designed the first Apple logo. He wrote the user manual for the Apple I computer and provided administrative oversight of the new venture. He was the unofficial adult in the room, being in his 40s at the time. So why have most of us never heard of Ronald Wayne? Because just 12 days after the partnership documents were signed, he and the others signed another agreement. In this document, Ronald Wayne gave up his 10% stake in exchange for, wait for it, $800. Let me ask you, would you be willing to pay $800 for 10% of Apple Computer today? So what happened? Wayne had second thoughts. As a partner, he would have been liable for any debts incurred by the new company, and that was a risk. He had assets the creditors could and would take from him if the company went under. He also felt a bit out of his league with Jobs and Wozniak, those two whiz-kid geniuses. And so he bailed. He took the $800 check and parted ways with them. Just for fun, ours, not his. Let's calculate what Wayne's 10% stake in Apple would be worth if he had held on to it all these years. Apple today is worth about $800 billion. That 10% stake in 1976 would today be worth about $80 billion, 100 million times what it sold for. Do you wonder if Ronald G. Wayne ever thinks about that? Moving on to another story about a missionary in Africa who had poor health and depended on goat milk for his source of vitamins. One day, the tribal leader came to visit the missionary. After a few minutes, it was obvious that the tribal leader was interested in the missionary's goat. The missionary decided to give the goat to the tribal leader as a gesture of kindness to build the trust needed to share the love of God. In return, the tribal leader gave the missionary a walking stick. Well, without the goat milk, the missionary became weaker and weaker over the next few days. Using the walking stick he received from the tribal leader, he walked into the village to purchase some goat milk. When he offered to buy the goat milk, his money was not accepted. Instead, he was told that he was entitled to anything in this village that he wanted. When the missionary asked why, the villagers explained that the walking stick he held was the scepter belonging to the tribal leader. Possessing that scepter entitled him to everything in the village. Esau sold his birthright to his brother Jacob for nothing but a bowl of stew. It brings up a powerful question. What is our faith worth to us? Our spiritual birthright. $800? $80 billion? A can of goat's milk? That would just be silly, wouldn't it? But how often do we trade our faith to follow temptations, to sin, to walk down paths we know aren't meant for us? Here is the promise. Since God gave us his one and only Son, we can be confident that God will give us everything else that we will need in our lives. What's that worth to you? Amen.